Do you see an issue with the homeless population or the ocean? Even though people don't see a problem with homelessness, they need to come to their senses, and we do need to take care of the ocean. Homelessness is an issue in today's world. In January of 2018, there were 522,830 homeless people in America. Out of those people, 194,476, or 35%, were unsheltered, and 358,363, or 65%, were sheltered. Unsheltered means they lived in places like cars, encampments, tents, and sidewalks, while sheltered people had an emergency shelter to stay at. 0.2% of Americans are homeless. That's 17 people out of every 10,000 people that are homeless. In California, 22% of Californians are homeless. Evidence strongly indicates that California has the largest population of homelessness in the United States. In California, the homeless population makes up about 1/5 of the population. These statistics show a widespread problem. Bringing it closer to home, in Santa Cruz County, 1 in every 127 people are homeless. In Santa Cruz, especially downtown, there are many people trying to live without any of the things that they need to be on the street and in the cold. Luckily, we have an organization called the Homeless Garden Project. The Homeless Garden Project helps homeless people get trained to do simple work and eventually get back into the community and get a job. Another case that supports my claim is called Housing Matters. They try to find housing for homeless, whether it's a shelter or a place with very affordable living. Affordable housing is the number one cause of homelessness. Another reason is because they can't find a job or they can't keep a job. There are many dangers to being homeless. They are usually at higher risk of diseases like hepatitis A, B, and C, AIDS, and HIV. This is because they have poor immune systems due to lack of nutrients and hygiene. These diseases can spread easily in shelters and encampments, but there's plenty of things you can do to help. Here's a couple of ways you could aid the homeless. Instead of donating things to the Goodwill or throwing them away, you could give them to someone on the street who will probably be able to find a use for it. You could give them clothes, especially warm clothes, undergarments, socks. You could volunteer at a shelter or raise money to donate, and as always, you could give them food or money. Homeless youth is partnered with this issue. One case that supports my claim is homeless families. They have young children who need just as much nutrients and as much nutrients as any young child would need. Although not true in every case, this is important because homeless children are hungry. They will have poor mental and physical health and are missing educational opportunities. This year, there is about 4.2 million homeless minors in the U.S. Out of those 42 million, 700,000 are unaccompanied minors. 29% of them have reported a substance abuse problem, and 69% of them reported a mental health issue. Many of the homeless youth come from running away, being kicked out, and being abandoned. Many of them had also been in public systems like the foster care system, mental wards, or the juvenile justice system. Since these young people left the only life they knew, getting a job in an unfamiliar area was going to be rough, and was rough. Many people believe that all homeless are addicts. This is an incorrect assumption, but those who report substance abuse problems report that addiction prevents them from looking for work. However, the idea that all homeless are addicts may be an even bigger barrier to the problem of unemployment than the problem of drug addiction itself. In reality, only 33% of homeless people struggle with addiction compared to the 53% that struggle with mental illness. The ones who usually struggle with substance abuse usually are on the streets, because shelters try and keep them sober and try to help them stay sober. Some shelters offer counseling, drug counseling, treatment, and support. Even though I spoke about homelessness for a majority of the time, I would like to bring up another issue, the ocean. The ocean is in desperate need of saving. 8.3 million tons of trash are put into our oceans annually. There are 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean. 269,000 tons float on the surface, and about 4 million microfibers reside just below the surface. 70% of all trash sinks to the ocean's ecosystems, 15% float, and the other 15 lands back on our beaches. By 2040, at the rate we're going, it's expected to triple, making the plastic in the ocean 29 million metric tons. In 2033, climate change will be irreversible. It is expected that the temperature will rise 1.5 degrees Celsius, and at that point, climate change is irreversible. Just imagine if we did not have our oceans. The clouds that are formed over the ocean would not exist, which would make rain very rare and turn everything into a desert. Lakes, rivers, streams, and other water supplies would slowly dry out until they no longer exist. Research shows that humans could live for a small amount of time if they stayed near their home where they could be sheltered. The ocean makes up about half of the world's oxygen and soaks up 50 times more carbon dioxide than our atmosphere. The ocean covers more than 70% of our Earth, and it transports heat from the equator to the North and South poles, controlling weather patterns and climate. Currents help push the heat in different directions. 97% of the globe's oceans are harmed by human impact. Carbon dioxide builds in the atmosphere and stops the heat from escaping the atmosphere. Climate change is causing the ocean's temperature to rise. This changes how fish migrate, how some animals reproduce, and causing coral reefs to die, thus releasing harmful pathogens. Another thing hurting our ocean is overfishing. If too many fish are taken out of the ocean, it creates an imbalance that wears away the food web and throws off the species that eats the food. Sea turtles and coral reefs are the most affected by overfishing due to not enough fish to ensure life, whether it's food or an inhabitor of the reef. Even though many people don't see the issue with homeless population and the ocean having problems, they are both dealing with more than the eye can see.